Admiral backstories, Shanks hype, dragon lore. This has been the most insane break week in One Piece history. For those who don't spend every waking second on Twitter, in the span of about 3 days, Oda has dropped a new SBS segment, Vivre cards for the Egghead arc, and an exclusive 10-question interview explaining semi-important lore questions. All of this on a break week. They knew exactly what they were doing, and since there's a lot of information, a lot of cool stuff to talk about, I thought I should cover all the actual important shit and give my takes on them. I'll start with the most significant segment, Oda's 10 questions. And in my opinion, the most interesting one he covered is on the Rocky Port incident. The event that led to Blackbeard becoming the ruler of Pirate Island, Law becoming a warlord, and Kobe being named a hero. Oda basically said that this will never be shown in the main story. It doesn't need to be, so here's the summary. To begin, Law heard of an important poneglyph being held at Pirate Island, or Hachinosu. This can't be one of the 4 road poneglyphs, but Law is trying to find the true history of the world, so he needs the lore. In order to reach Hachinosu, Trafalgar hijacked a passenger ship named the Rocky Port. Whether or not Law's crew was with him is unknown, though after he infiltrated the island, he clashed with some pirates. Not long after, Kobe and Blackbeard arrived at the island for their own reasons, as Oda puts it. This eventually all culminated in Law, Kobe, and Teach joining forces to defeat the former ruler of Hachinosu, Ochoku or Wang Zi. Wang Zi was a former member of the Rocks Pirates, and when you connect the dots, the Rocky Port incident shares quite a few similarities to Wano, more specifically the raid on Onigashima. And I think one of the best theories out right now is that since Luffy and Blackbeard both defeated former members of the Rocks Pirates to claim territory and become emperors, then maybe Shanks defeated Shiki for Elbaf? I don't know, I'm not a theory guy, but I really like that concept. That's pretty much it for Rocky Port though. Oda never said it was completely impossible for this to be shown in the manga, but usually when he drops info casually like this, it isn't that significant. Would make for an amazing filler arc in the anime though. But what isn't filler is the new information about Dragon. The third of Oda's 10 questions asked is, has Luffy ever lived with Dragon? And the answer is no, or not as far as Luffy remembers. It's revealed that the reason Dragon abandoned Luffy and the rest of his family is because he's the leader of the revolutionaries, which would obviously make his son a target. This answer may seem very minor, something that a lot of fans already kind of thought, but it makes me like Dragon 10 times more as a character. Hopefully it will show more people the difference between him and just other pirate crews. Many gave Dragon flack for not going to save Ginny, but you have to realize that he's not like Whitebeard or Luffy. Dragon is the leader of a world-spanning uprising, and he is so poised to complete his mission that he accepts every loss he takes, even when it comes to his own family. That is a fucking dog right there, and I know his backstory in terms of emotional weight will be the best in the series. However, this leads us into the actual best of the series, Oda's favorite character, Shanks. This is another minor question, but it speaks volumes about the red-haired rat. The divine departure that took out Kid in one hit. Was that move taught by Roger, or did Shanks learn it by imitating him? Oda's answer, he remembered it because he always looked up to Roger. It's not just something anyone from the Roger Pirates can imitate, so Shanks' talent is quite astonishing. This nigga will always find a way to glaze Shanks for no reason. In theory, Shanks' talent could be better than Rayleigh, Gabon, Odin, possibly. I mean, Kaido did mention both of them when he was thinking about Luffy's potential, so again, that's just an assumption. Oda did not directly say that Shanks is that talented. However, he is the son of a fucking God's Knight who was promoted to Elder. Maybe it runs in the family. Speaking of, there was also a question about how strong Garling is, in which Oda responds with, he's strong. Wow, couldn't guess that. But there is a reason behind his strength. The only reason I can think of is a devil fruit, because if it was really just the case of, oh, he trains very intensely, then why would he hype it up so much? Leave a comment and tell me what y'all think about this, because I need the engagement. But speaking of hype, I don't know how to transition besides saying speaking of, we have Sakazuki's new bounty. Of course, Cross Guild is issuing bounties on Marines now, and during Egghead, we learned that an Admiral is worth 3 billion berries, or 3 crowns. The Fleet Admiral is worth 5 billion berries. That's more than fucking Kaido, almost as high as Roger and Whitebeard's. I mean, what else did you really expect? It's the Fleet Admiral. I don't like using bounties to scale, but I feel like this is really just more narrative hype for how much of a threat Sakazuki is. We also see the lower ranks get bounties as well, with Vice Admirals going for 5 stars. For reference, a cross guild star is 100 million berries, meaning VAs are around the level of Yonko officers in terms of bounty. Again, this is why we don't use bounties to scale because, for instance, Ace has a similar number, but we know he would one-shot any Vice Admiral. On a similar note, there's confirmation that some Marines are special cases like Garp and Kobe. Going back to the Admirals though, there is a lot to talk about, and this is where we transition into the info from the SBS segment. Not only do the 2 new Admirals get a light backstory, but our boy Kizaru also gets his vindication. The reason for this is that Oda basically states Kizaru gave Luffy the food to recover on Egghead. This confirms 2 things. 1. Kizaru was 100% without a shadow of a doubt mentally nerfed during Egghead, which means his battle performance against Luffy is not the best representation of his power. There was already empirical evidence for this, but the fact that he is literally helping the enemy shows that he was not compliant with his mission at all. And 2, despite Luffy hitting him with the White Star Gun, Kizaru could have easily blitzed over and stabbed him while he was defenseless / out of stamina. It's most likely that Borsalino was just faking being immobile. The funny thing is too is that so many people are just trying to cope and come up with excuses for Luffy because Oda did not directly state that Kizaru was the one who gave him the food. He just heavily alluded to it, and if you go read the SBS for yourself, the answer is clear. It can't be Sanji or Frankie because they were being pinned by Saturn's powers. Couldn't be Sentomaru because he was already captured and heavily injured. And I'm sure that when Oda referred to someone who moves at the speed of light twice in his answer, nah, he didn't mean Kizaru. He meant to say that all the characters mentioned have light speed scaling because they all dodge PX lasers and Savity, and then if you add the gear form multipliers, then they come out to be 270 million times the speed of light. Like, did you not read the story, you fucking idiot? Like, obviously, even though all of that was true, that's stupid. This just goes to show that One Piece fights have a lot more context behind them besides 2 people hitting each other until one wins. It also proves that in a straight 1v1, Luffy would lose to Kizaru, whether that be because of stamina or because he just gets outclassed. Again, there's so much more evidence than just Oda answering this question, but that's a different video. For now, let's speak on the other 2 admirals and their backstory. Green Bull is from the Taya Kingdom in South Blue. He was once a police officer until a great incident involving a woman, after which he was thrown into prison. Now, I don't know about y'all, and I don't want to assume anything because this is a pretty heavy topic, but if I got accused by a woman for doing heinous things and convicted in court for some double standard shit, I would convert to absolute justice too. Green Bull was already a cop, so he could have been like this to start. However, I think it's more tragic and fitting for a good cop to be framed for something he didn't do, which turned him into a radical who does anything to seek justice. That would be really hard, and it would give Green Bull some characterization I think he desperately needs, because right now he really is just a bad guy. As for how Aramaki joined the Navy though, apparently he already had a reputation for great strength, to which the Marines drafted him and he was immediately promoted to Admiral. Still got no diff by Shanks, but that's really impressive. Fujitora, on the other hand, hails from the West Blue. Initially, he was a military chief in the Blue Kingdom, though this country was destroyed in a war, with Isho becoming a war criminal. The world government doesn't know about this, but Oda said they will soon. I feel that he's planting the seeds for an eventual Fujitora betrayal. This is also just me, but whatever happened in the Blue Kingdom is probably what caused Fuji to slash his eyes out, because remember, he blinded himself on purpose to not see the evils of the world. After that event is when he became a bodyguard on Twin Snake Island. Then the location he worked at was bought by the world government, which is how he was drafted. Very intriguing for Fujitora, but we always knew he was going to be interesting. There are also 2 little sketches of Fuji and Green Bull as kids, so yeah. The last bits of info to cover are from the Vivre cards. Not much is here, but there is some nice details for scaling purposes. First, I think the most jaw-dropping info is the 4 main Seraphim having Haki, specifically armament and observation. Of course, the Seraphim have been hyped up as being the strongest form of humanity, basically the most overpowered beings in the series, but this reveal is crazy as most of the community agreed that due to Haki relying on willpower and spirit, they wouldn't have it. All the Seraphim do is just follow orders, barely having minds of their own. However, not only do they have Haki, but they also possess it at only 2 years old. It's confirmed that the Seraphim's bodies are basically 8, which means they age 4 times faster than humans. As if these things couldn't get more overpowered, it is also confirmed that Lunarians are practically invincible with their flames on. The Vivre card never says completely impervious, but more like near invincible. By proxy, King is the same way, which for you it might change his scaling, but I don't think it does. Another character who has a change in scaling is Boa, surprisingly, as S-Snake's Vivre card states it's on par with the original in terms of power. This is literally the only concrete statement for Boa, and she has no other feats to counter this. The thing is too, on par doesn't mean equal, but it also doesn't mean Boa is twice as strong as S-Snake. Like, no. They gotta be very close, and the Seraphim are somewhat level with Kaku in terms of strength, and he's a Jinbei victim, so yeah. It does not look good for the Boa is first commander level agenda. Though by this logic, she's still stronger than Katakuri. I felt the need to mention that. The Garp agenda is looking good though, as we have confirmation that he is a Conqueror's Haki user, though interestingly enough, the other 2 admirals in this arc, Aokiji and Kizaru, are not confirmed Conquerors. This doesn't mean they don't have it, as Garp's original Vivre card said he didn't, but even so. But that's pretty much all the relevant info from the past week or so. Though I'll rapid fire a few other minor things. When Gear 5 Luffy pulls out his goggles or a baseball helmet, he's getting it from Nika's fantasy. Basically, he's just pulling it out of his ass. Yamato isn't an awakened fruit user. Sabo is training every day with the Flame fruit, and the world military draft that Fujitora and Green Bull came from was actually a trigger for the recent 8-nation revolution because the world government was basically stealing soldiers from these countries. Also, York has the body of a 16-year-old. I just wanted some of y'all to know that, and you know who you are.